It's this strange, magical, somewhat unsettling moment when, in the middle of the day, the world suddenly goes dark as the moon blocks out the sun.
The first eclipse I saw was back in the early 1960s. And I was only, that would have made me 11 years old.
My first total solar eclipse was in 2017. And I had the privilege of being on the USS Yorktown in Charleston Harbor in South Carolina.
That's Fred Espenak and Kelly Corrick. Kelly is a NASA sun scientist who studies total solar eclipses, and Fred's an eclipse addict. He's earned his nickname, Mr. Eclipse, by experiencing 30 of them all over the world. Now, the odds that you, listening to this episode, are currently experiencing a total solar eclipse are pretty low. They're rare phenomena. In any given place, where you live, for example, you'll only get about one every 4 centuries. So I'm not going to get in the way here. I'm going to let Kelly and Fred tell you what experiencing one firsthand is like.
And leading up here, this is actually a really kind of eerie scene.
You start to notice that the quality of the light now is starting to look a little odd.
The light seems weird, and your brain definitely starts thinking, something doesn't seem right. So there's this feeling of kind of anxiety, yet also excitement.
The sun is no longer a disk in the sky. It's a thin crescent. And on the ground underneath the shade tree, you'll see the ground covered with little crescent suns. It's an amazing thing.
And the first part that happens is Bailey's beads. So you see these bright little lights. They're the sun's rays coming through the mountains and valleys on the moon.
We forget that the sun is what's giving us warmth. But in the last 10 minutes, when you've got over 90% of the sun covered, the temperature is going to start to drop. My reaction physiologically is that the hair on the back of my neck is standing up, my heart is racing, and you just get a visceral feeling in your gut that something is wrong. This just does not seem natural. It seems so far out of any kind of everyday experience.
What does happen in general in eclipses is that animals think it's nighttime. So animals such as crickets, roosters, think it's nighttime, it's time to roost.
If you've got birds around, they might start singing their evening songs because they think it's sunset, that it's getting dark out for them.
So you're seeing these light beads all along the side of the dark moon that's covering the bright sun. And then you see one final one, which is called the diamond ring, and you see totality.
And in the last few seconds, the moon shadow races over you, and it's traveling over 1,000 miles an hour. You don't see the edge of the shadow. Either you're in it or you're out of it. It just sweeps over you so rapidly. You're plunged into it, and suddenly, daylight drops to an eerie twilight, about as dark as it gets, maybe about a half hour after sunset. And when you look out in the directions of the horizon, you're looking at the edge of the shadow into areas that are still in daylight. So you look around the horizon and you're surrounded by sort of a 360-degree sunrise in all directions, sunrise and sunset. And of course, then you look back up at the sky to where the sun had been, and there's no brilliant sun in the sky anymore. What it's been replaced by is a black disk surrounded by this eerie, gossamer halo, which is the sun's corona.
At this time, you don't need your special glasses. You can look with your own eyes at the protrusions from the sun, which are filaments. They're millions of degrees of hot gas that are flowing off the sun.
And it's indescribable. It's so beautiful. The shape of it is always different at each eclipse because it's affected by the magnetic fields of the sun, which are changing from day to day.
And it was breathtaking. The things that I had studied my entire career were there right in front of my eyes. And they had been hidden by the brightness that the sun normally has. And so I was with friends, and there was much laughter and hugging and just overall an amazing experience.
Wow, that looks great.
Even though most total eclipses last 2 or 3 minutes, all of them seem to last only a few seconds subjectively, because this happens so quickly, because now you're outside the moon's shadow again, and you're plunged right back into bright sunlight. The shadow races off across the Earth's surface and leaves you've got another hour or so of partial phases, but you've just experienced the total eclipse.
Everyone who experiences a total solar eclipse seems to come away with the same question.
For most people, the first question on their mind is,
when's the next one? When do we get to do that again?
because I want to see it.
Because it is just such an amazing experience.
This is NASA's Curious Universe.